Oh boy, I'm alive apparently. Well, this is good. All right. I'm going to send the link out to people. Share. Share link. Is that it? Okay. Great. Oh, maybe not. Taking my mask off. I expect this stream to not be very attended because I have not cared to promote it, and that's fine. Okay, why can't I just straight up copy the link here? Oh, okay. There we go. Just copied it. Okay. There we go. There's one. There's two. And there's three. Okay. So I pasted it in 3 places. So hi, everyone. This is just a random live stream because as a musician, I desperately need some more social connection in my life than I'm getting. So I figure this would be a good opportunity to talk about several silly trends that I've noticed when I was promoting my emoji album, and then also to talk about some more chord progressions that I've been discovering in various songs. The keyboard right now is still in 16-10. So what we could talk about is we could talk about one of Lois Lancaster's songs, or Elaine Walker's song Avatar, because I've been working on doing a cover of that song. And there's actually, I've been discovering that whenever I look at an Elaine Walker song and figure out the chords, I find that she has this cool way of, well, sort of establishing how the song is going to go, and then when she adds a new element to the song, it adds a new layer of zen. And I think that's really, really interesting, and I want to kind of write a paper on it if I can find enough songs and examples, because there are some other songs that do that, but like, for example, Love is the Catalyst has this bass line that opens with like a 5/10 interval, but you might not really hear it. You might just hear it as like a major second because it's so low and then there's no harmony happening. And Elaine, I think, is just singing the roots. And then there's that part where right after, she glides on the black keys of the piano and plays the 10/10 neutral chord, but it's all like sparkly and great, and it's really spine tingling. So good example of something that's not that zen, and then right after you've got something that's zen happening in it. And Avatar does something similar that I didn't notice at all. So for those of you who haven't heard Avatar, it kind of goes like this. No, I'm not very loud, am I? There we go. Can we hear the keyboard? Okay, good. So G down minor, I guess. So the chord structure to Avatar is very interesting. Initially, there is this little hook that goes, no one knows who you are, not even you, not even your avatar. Right? So it kind of sounds like it's switching between a 5 chord and a 1 chord. Da, da, da. Like if I tried to play it over here. You'd kind of have like a chord that's tonicized and then just the shift up. So initially it doesn't sound very xenharmonic, but later new notes are revealed that kind of recontextualize it. And that happens in this little arpeggiated synth part, which I think is so cool. So if we had like a major chord here. Oh, I see. Since the third is super major, we can't actually just get a straight up major chord to happen. This would be the major chord that we could have, but then it would be too low. But it's, and actually I kind of thought it was the other one for a while, because the first one she sings it lower than the second one, which is really interesting. So yeah, anyway, there's that. So you can't really make a major chord out of it. And clearly Elaine had something else in mind. The idea comes from taking the different tonality from the verse and putting a Picardy spin on it such that it makes the chorus progressions enharmonic. So I'll explain how. So in the verse, we basically have a G minor chord. No. Kind of, but it's a G down minor. And this is a 16 tone equal temperament, by the way. So yeah, right here we've got that that G down minor. I'm assuming that C is like this note, and naming it with 8th tones, which would be the way to do it because that's already a division of a 12N or 12R, so that would be easier to do. So the verse basically rests on this G minor chord and also has like a minor 7th in it, and then just arpeggiates that. So in the cover that I'm doing, I'm arpeggiating it with a lot of different little instruments here, like this little flute here, and then like this recorder right here. And that works out really well because we have hello. Oh, there we go. I guess I wasn't holding the other hole. Yeah, so recorder, and then the ocarina, which is incredibly hard because not only is it built for 12th tet, but the tuning is also really a variable. And it's really hard to get that minor third. I don't even know the whole. Oh, I should have done that. Because I have already recorded all these. And then I was also using my saxophone and clarinet, so they're back there. But yeah. Okay, so Avatar, just a little bit. Before I even attempt to get into the title of the video. You'll think of this as like a free-for-all where if you have some fun questions, you can just hop in and ask them about anything at all. So anyway, we've got kind of that G minor thing happening in the verse. What are the words? You took me to your private lair and want to keep me here, but you're just another guitar. No one. And then we're back. So that verse is all about tonicizing this like G down minor chord. So here's the G down note. So you'd kind of expect that if this is G down here, and then sort of like an A flat and D half flat, that these would kind of all be in the same key. And indeed, the scale that's being used here is a 6-note scale. So there's no 4th scale degree. You could think of this as like 1 in between 2, minor third, and of course the 5 is flat because it's 16. 5, flat 6, flat 7, but these notes up here, there's 3 steps in between all of them. So that's pretty interesting. Let's see. Discussing redesigning circle of fifths to reflect that they're reversed. Yes, that's a really interesting case. There's some notations that I feel like if they are using a 7-letter notation that's too far from diatonic, then I'm not sure if they really would work for people. But we haven't tested that on enough people yet, right? We haven't actually put 16 EDO native 5th notation in the hands of enough people so that we can definitively say, oh, well, subset notation is going to be easier. But I think subset notation is easier for now just because, it's a subset of 48. Oh, we lost some people for that. Okay, so we're back in G minor. And we have this scale here. So I'm kind of adding a sharp 4th scale degree here. Not really sharp 4. It's a standard 4. But it's 2 down from the 5th here. And I think it sounds a bit zen. I actually am hinting at something that Elaine does later. So we've got this G minor chord, and then we're theoretically using other notes in the scale on the A flat super major third, going to D half flat. But then after that we shift up, and it seems like a simple linear shift, right? You'd think that maybe if D major was an implied chord here, that this is just shifting up to here. But it's not. It's actually going up to something that is a bit more like a, well, I guess it would be kind of like a, I don't know, it's kind of like a major chord with a sharp fourth on top of it, but you're also inclined to think of it as diminished. Oh, we don't need people, it's just that I see how many people are watching, and there was like 7, and then when I said that native fifth notation wouldn't be as good, it like dropped to 4, so I was like, well, that's it. So, yeah, okay, anyway, it's just not even you, not even your avatar. So the notes don't quite work with that major chord exactly. They've got this here, and there's something later that happens where a perfect fourth shrinks into a major third that can't happen in 12th that recontextualizes this progression and makes it xenharmonic. And this is how it happens. So Elaine introduces this as a single element after the bridge. So for those of you who haven't heard this song, the bridge part is really cool because it completely goes into another key. It goes like, it's finally fading. Try to just a poorly formed personality. There's something else, and I don't remember the words at all because I'm not good at memorizing words. But then there's another tritone. I had an epiphany, and now you're dead to me. It's just that interval, right? Because look, this is the normal fourth going down to the third of that minor chord again. But in the bridge, we've been hearing these 2 notes here, so we kind of expect maybe like this note to go down. Like a less zen move would be to go, and now you're dead to me, right? Because we were just hearing this. But no, Elaine does this note instead. So it's kind of like pulling back a curtain of zen after we haven't heard that. And then this arpeggiated progression comes in. It goes like this. And like, so the idea there is that we kind of have like a G down major chord. Remember, we're already using G down for that minor 7th in the verse. And then we have its, I guess, bona fide sharp 4, which is the same note that gets sung in No One Knows Who You Are. Thanks. But yeah, anyway, we've got that there. And here's what happens to the progression. This arpeggio here, you'd expect that maybe it's like a Picardy third that gets played during like a G major moment, but it gets played during the chorus, which means that now our chorus chords have become significantly more unusual when this arpeggiation is stuck in. Because now, instead of dyads that are in rhythmic unison with each other, we now have something else, like a fourth structure implied, right? Because if this note is in the bottom, no one know. What's that? You know? We've got a fourth structure and then like a major third. And then like this here. So I guess in my mind, that definitely makes it want to sort of pull to like D half flat. So D half flat is kind of like the tonic of our chorus, and G down minor is the tonic of our verse. So that's kind of what we've got going on here. So this is why the progression actually ends up being xenharmonic. Instead of, like, it could just be a cool structure, right? But the other important part of this is that this here, that D half flat to G down, contracts inward to this other sonority. Right? That's that part that goes, not even you, not even your avatar. Right? It contracts in. And if we try to do this in 12th, it doesn't work, because a perfect fifth, if it contracts inward by semitone, has to go to a minor third instead, right? I don't even know how to play it here. It's so weird. Right? And then this would have to go in. Doesn't work, right? So, But before we didn't have that. So the progression wasn't a xenharmonic. You see what's going on here? What's happening is that in a xenharmonic tuning system, if you try to translate it to 12-tone equal temperament, you have to make a mathematical decision that will invalidate it or change it in some fundamental way where you can hear it. But in a non-xenharmonic chord progression, in a xenharmonic tuning, or at least one that doesn't appear xenharmonic, we can just create analogs out of everything and it will still work. In fact, I wonder if we could do the avatar progression without the arpeggiation in 12-10, and if it would still work. Okay, let's try swinging this over here. Let's see. So I guess it would be like, no one knows who you are, not even you, not even. Oh, that is weird. Let's try. Okay, that's really weird. I think that major second just being so much bigger than 16, the 225-cent one, that definitely like wrinkles my brain enough that I might consider it xenharmonic. But technically, every interval has an analog over here, so that's super interesting. But yeah, anyway, I thought it was really cool how like this progression isn't as zen until you add that arpeggiation in, and then suddenly you have the requirement that a perfect fourth has to contract inwards to a super major third for this chord. The other thing that the arpeggiation chord progression does is it recontextualizes that flat two, or I guess this, oh crap, I forget what the note is called. I should have it here somewhere. I have a bunch of papers around my room. Oh yeah, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I have written out for Avatar, by the way. So I wrote out the arpeggiations with notes that kind of like my perfect pitch heard it in. So not the real 16-tone notation, but I wrote down the arpeggiations, and then here I wrote down the chords for the bridge, which I was really, really shocked that the first bridge chord is like essentially like a dominant seventh chord, because I hear it as having so much of a diminished flavor. So I just thought that was really fascinating. But yeah, and I've also got the scale written down that's used in the verse and the standard notation. This is something I used on 12, this little 16-tone keyboard graphic here, and you can see that I scribbled out some of these and replaced them with the quarter tone accidentals, because you can, what you're doing is like for a subset notation in 16-tone equal temperament, you'd want to take 48-tone equal temperament and then just write down every 3 pitch classes. So the advantage of subset notation generally is that the analogs are going to make more sense compared to 12-tone equal temperament. But you'll also have more accidentals, and you won't be able to represent everything from the total set in your system. It's like, you know, I've got this notated on C, right? But let's say somebody else comes along and they want to write something in 16-tone equal temperament and use a subset of 48. They might start on D. So now their accidentals are entirely different, which is really unfortunate. So there are advantages and disadvantages there. I'd say ultimately in 16, the subset is more readable. Another interesting video I'm working on making, which I've already released to my patrons but isn't really done, is a video about how 15-tone equal temperament is very unique for sort of working in both its native fifth notation and its subset notation. And really, I think it's the only equal temperament to really be able to accomplish this. But there's a lot of points in that I can't go over in this video, but I just wanted to hint at it. So yeah, this is what I've got here. So like the notes I'm playing then, G down, and then no, where'd it go? Wait, there? Is this just, oh, it has been D half flat the whole time. It's just up there. So I didn't see it. I'm like trying to read like mirror mode and it's not working. Do, 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 do. So I guess this is E double flat up, if you think of it as like a flat 2 scale degree, like if I was spelling it correctly. Yeah, good question. I don't want to write 15 as a subset of 60. I prefer it in its native fifth notation, because even though it's a bit clunky, like the logic makes enough sense that you can read triads in sort of the same way, right? Almost. The steps are messed up, but the triads are pretty much okay. But I've written something in 15 for a violas who preferred it notated as a subset of 60, because he didn't want to deal with that. So, you know, different people have different preferences, and I think that's fine. So yeah. Okay. Anyway, that E double flat up chord is the one where you'd think it would just be major, but the arpeggiation that Elaine introduces, or the arpeggiated synth line, when we get this major third, we also get our riff that includes this tritone. So now we know that it's not E double flat up, G flat, B double flat. It's E double flat up, G flat, A flat up. And A flat up is that note that we've been using in the bass already and stuff. So, yeah. Okay. Hopefully that all makes a little bit of sense. So, yeah. Performance scores and analysis scores are also different. Huh. I'm trying to think of an example in which that's the case. I guess people have edited scores for analysis in theory papers that are more readable or that might highlight some peculiar differences that don't exist in the performance scores. So that's an interesting topic. But yeah, okay, cool. So I wanted to talk a little bit about Avatar, and actually, why not take a little tour around the room? I'll show you everything that I've been using. Maybe this will work. Okay, so now I just unplugged my speakers, so maybe something bad will happen sound-wise. So here's the tour. Okay, so you can see there, I have my toy box of various whistles and doodads and all those other kinds of things. And my fiance has a shaker, so I finally have one, and that's good. This is a recorder that like barely works, and the quality is not very good. I used it on Ignoring Years of Hindsight, and I probably won't again. This thing makes a really interesting sound, which isn't very loud, but like, can you imagine like a fixed media piece processing that at like Seamus or something? All the academic people would kind of like lose it. I think it would be great. And then there's some other stuff in here that I used for like Savage's Gleam cover, like this, and various squeaky toys and other things, and of course tons of kazoos. Right here, actually, I'm going to swing around so I can actually see myself. Right here, I got these animals for Christmas. So then I used them in my most recent Bandcamp album, which has been about like dumping all these 20-tone equal tempered ideas out, Ignoring Years of Hindsight. So it fit well with the theme of like having lots of songs being about different animals or hints to different animals or hinting at different animals. I can't talk. So yeah, anyway, there's that. And then let's see, what else is there? Oh, there's this keyboard. And none of the stuff on the keyboard is any of the things I ever actually have to practice for work. It's all just microtonal stuff. Like here's a dulcimer piece that I should have finished that's not done. Here's some 20-tone guitar charts where I was trying to highlight the difference between Blackwood and another tuning, among a few other things. And then I think this down here might be, well, it's not Glacial 7. It's like, there's a scale in 20 tet that's similar to 13 tet, where it has 6 whole steps and then 1 half step at the end, or 6 large steps and 1 half step. And then this is all just like reminders and other microtonal things. Some of them are notes from different covers. Like here's like some stuff from like the Dance of the Forest Lights cover, which I just like keeping. I think it's fun. So I was just writing down all the notes for like the guitar player and stuff to play. So yeah, these costumes are something that I'm using in Avatar. So me and Vito Sicarella are going to be all spacey. So let me pull up a little video and I'll show you what I mean here. Like this. So I got these silly glasses online. Yeah. So there's a white one, and then there's a black one. And then so I wore like an all black and an all white costume. And the all black costume person is playing the keyboard in here. So I've already laid down the keyboard parts, but I don't know. Maybe Vito will see this, maybe not. But yeah, Vito, if you're out there, check your Facebook Messenger. Because I don't know if he wants to lay down some soloing tracks or not. I can't decide if a solo would be good for this song or not. Because like the chord progression is really simple, which means that the soloing would be easy. But on the other hand, I also feel like after a full Avatar, like you're good. You know, like you don't need more song. So I don't know what to do there. So that might be an interesting decision. Might be all up to him. But yeah, and this is a rack that I put together where I have a lot of instruments. As you can see, I need a mic clip. I found that I actually have a second microphone. So that means that when I switch from this vocal mic here to this microphone down here, like for guitar, I used to have to move the microphone all the way back and forth, but I'm really glad that I don't have to do that now. Now I just have to buy a mic clip for this. And that, of course, amp, the classic Fender that I don't know how to get interesting effects out of. I have an effects pedal here, but I've lost the kind of connection that plugs it in. It's really sad. And then down here I have my woodwinds and isomorphic keyboard. So there's a saxophone and clarinet. I'm hoping to accumulate as many instruments as I can, and maybe have things like flutes and violins and all that kind of stuff. This, of course, is the 2010 Beast right here. This is my gearbox. And this is my salt lamp, which actually is supposed to go in the other room, but I was using it for the Avatar cover. It's like the salt lamp can, let's see. The salt lamp can stay, like it stays on the keyboard, and then the light is coming down, and it's pretty nice. Okay, and then there's dulcimer, 19-tone guitar, and then some other assorted instruments up there, including a rain stick that I got that is actually broken, just a little bit, but it still works. So that's pretty exciting. And then here's Paul Ehrlich's projective tuning space on the wall. It's my favorite thing to have on the wall. This is part of a bed, and this is a camera that I'm leaving there for Avatar in case I have to film the keyboard solo. So yeah, okay. Oh, microtonal improv is always welcome. Yes. Well, thanks for the input, Saga. I'll consider that. So yeah. Okay, cool. I might as well talk a little bit about what the title of this video is about, I guess. Let's see. What even did I make the title? Oh, I'm trying to remember the first thing. The first thing is calling the Tresillo. So I guess this is kind of about the Emoji album a little bit. I learned a lot of things from making it. I feel like lately, whenever I make a conceptual album and it's like a whole big thing, it's a whole big affair, like I learn so much more from that than I learn from like making one piece at a time and just putting it out on the internet. And also people care more. So I guess that's, not a reason for me to make singles ever again. And I know that like all the like contemporary like trending advice is like, oh, make singles all the time so that people always see you. But like, I just don't even care. I guess I want people to think about the conceptual albums more than anything, because the conceptual albums really are like sort of the ideas that stick with me personally. So I know that like if there were another version of me out there making conceptual stuff, that I would probably want to hear those kinds of albums more than the singles themselves. So yeah, definitely need this caffeine. So calling the Tresillo is really interesting, because for years and years and years in pop music, I had always generalized the rhythm of it by being like, okay, chances are if you hear a rhythm that's not right into the beat, it's going to be right? And that's just the Tresillo. So the Tresillo is a group of three, and a group of two that adds up to 8. It provides a little bit more interest than just playing quarter notes or occasionally eighth notes. So, you've got that right there. And it's sort of become really, really ingrained into people's consciousnesses. Ugh, can't talk. I almost find that people will recall that more easily than something like a triplet, or that people will default to it very easily. Like if they just randomly pull something out of the air, like some kind of rhythm, it might be that Tresillo. So the inspiration for the Emoji album's rhythm was, oh, okay, so I've noticed this rhythm for years and years and years, and like it's been around so much that it's almost become a cliche. Like it's in the mainstream consciousness enough that if I were to pervert it just a little bit and make it a bit different, it would actually be okay. Like it wouldn't be something where people are like, well, what's going on here? So with the Emoji album, I made it all about taking like a long, long short. long, long, short, and like deconstructing it into various ways. Because like there's different kinds of tresillos, right? Like if you added up the individual long, long, short beats to be different values, then you get some really interesting kinds of beats happening. Like here, I'll try to do, like I think this is 8 plus 8 plus 5 is like, I'm getting earlier and earlier with that last one. But you get the idea. 8 plus 8 plus 5 would be like a long, long, short, and then it's like so close to right, but not exactly. It just happens a little bit earlier because normally that last one would be 6. If it's 8 plus 8 plus 6, doubling. Well, wait, I can't count. 8 plus 8 plus 6. Oh no, that 8 plus 8 plus 6 would be like 4 plus 4 plus 3. And then 8 plus 8 plus 4 would be like 3 plus 3 plus 2. Okay, so yeah, a little bit like that. But yeah, I think I can do like even like 5 plus 5 plus 3. And I use hippopotamus for 5. So yeah, those tresillos are really fun. And I didn't know what they were called. So when I wrote the emoji album and I put everything in, I finished all of my album notes, like the 1,080-page album notes, with the description of the long, long, short rhythm, not knowing that there was a term out for that already. Because like after I released the emoji album, like right after, yeah, oh, 2 plus 2 plus 1. Wait, how can I not? Wait, what would 3 plus 3 plus 2 be then for an 8? I guess that wouldn't really work. 3 plus 3 plus 2 is 8 plus 8. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Huh. Yeah, that's right. Superstar Saga in the chat is doing math, which I apparently can't do today. Isn't it terrible that I can't do math, but I'm a microtonalist? I mean, what is that even? But anyway, I didn't know that this was called a tresillo. And so David Bennett released this video about the tresillo, like the hallmark rhythmic gesture of the 2010s. And I saw that and I was like, oh, that's what it is. So there were a lot of feelings at seeing that thumbnail. The first feeling was like, oh man, I really should have looked this up and like put it in the album notes so that people would know what it was. But maybe not that many people know the term, so maybe it's okay that I'm not saying the word tresillo in my album notes. Maybe it's a fairly new word. And then the other feeling I had was, oh wow, well this really confirms what I've been hearing for the long time. Maybe I'm not as old and out of it as I always thought. Let's see. Ooh, name for the related 3-3-3-3-4 rhythm, but I can't remember it. Yeah, maybe. The other thing that's weird about that is I think tresillo might just be Spanish for triplet, which seems bad to me, because then if you're just trying to talk about a triplet in Spanish, I mean, like, what do you do here? Like, do you just say the English word triplet and then tresillo for that? Or do you say tresillo for both and then, like, you have to explain which one it is? Like, it seems like it wouldn't be a very good situation. So yeah, that's how I called the tresillo in the emoji album. I thought it was cool that I had done that and that it was working through the album in so many different ways. And I actually thought of a really cool idea for a tresillo like yesterday that I haven't put in a DAW yet. So I might put it in a song. The idea is that the beats themselves are normal lengths of 3, 3, 2, but then within the 3 lengths, you make that a 4 tuplet. So I guess a quad. Oh my god, how do I not know this? Let's see. Duplet, triplet. Oh, quadruplet, I guess. I guess I just never say that. Pentuplet. Yeah, quadruplet is like a weird word, I guess. But yeah, quadruplet. I'd put that in the 3s, and then in the 2 section, I put a triplet. So let's see if I can do it. Maybe. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's cheat. Let's use a metronome to see what this sounds like. Even though it's not cheating. Okay, here we go. I'm imagining it like... Let's see if I can even get close to the tempo. That's like... I wonder if that's like 80. Slow. Try 90. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, cool. So now we've got that. Okay, So now I've got the 8th note here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this, I'm going to turn this into 8/4. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, let's get back with the first. Dun, 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 dun. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take away anything that's not part of the Tresillo. So we just hear the 3/3/2 beat. Dun, 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 dun. So now the idea is, if I've got just that, then hopefully I can do quadruplets along to the long beats and then triplet along the short beat. So. Oh man, that doesn't sound as weird as I thought it would. I guess I was picturing in my head that like the 3 would make that last beat kind of like appear shorter. Maybe I can play with that. But yeah, that's an example of a cool way to use those sorts of things. Another cool rhythm I thought of is a rhythm in 13, where you take the idea of feeling a 3+2 as a pentuple swing, and you sort of incorporate it into that rhythm. So in 13/8, and I'm not going to do this one with a metronome because you've got to feel it. Let's see. Gosh, I should really have like a practice pad, I think. Maybe I should use practice pad in the Avatar cover. But I haven't decided what I'm going to do for the drums yet. I almost want to draw like drums on a little piece of paper and hit it with a little stick, like for miming it. That would be kind of fun. But yeah, this other rhythm here then is it's a 3+2, a 3, and then another 3+2. And the idea is that if you feel the 3+2 as a pentuple swing, it feels like it's sort of a normal swung beat with a small part taken away. So I guess it's like a reverse hiccup or something. I don't know. Or maybe you could just call it a hiccup. Because like, okay, so I guess pentuple is like, right? So now you've got that in your head. So then when you add that 3 in, that 13/8 cycle becomes like. So yeah, that would be a pretty interesting repetition, because like it sounds like it's a swung beat and then there's something weird in the middle of it. But the hope is that like if you portray the pentuple swing as not sounding like dun 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 dun, but sounding like dun 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 dun, people hear it as a swung beat and then they're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So I think that would be a really cool way to come up with some meters that might appear like pretty normal, but then are actually really hard to hear, is like disguising some really high subdivisions as swing so that people can't quite count out the meter immediately. Let's see. The first eight notes are 3 out of 32 each, and the last 3 notes are 1/12, 3 out of 36. Which meter is that, Saga? I'm trying to figure out what you're referring to there. Oh well. Okay. So it's probably like takes some time. But anyway, that's enough Tresillo nonsense. Now I want to talk about the one with the quadruplets and the Tresillo. Let's see. The first 8 notes are 30 seconds each. Oh, last 3 notes are 1/12. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I think. Yeah. That's a good way to think of it. I might actually start thinking of it that way instead. But yeah. It's interesting because when you use like 4s and 3s, it's actually not too hard to like get things within a meter that actually divides with like how you would normally read it. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, okay. So now a little bit about forced memes and Wankery, and then maybe I'll play a little bit of 16-tet, and then get back to work. Since that's all I get to do. it's interesting because I've been on Facebook for a long time, and it's not giving me very good content since I started giving it up from my phone. Like I would try and follow maybe like some funny groups and like some music groups. So maybe it would be like half and half. Um, and when I would get on Facebook on my phone and occasionally check that stuff, I feel like it was giving me some stuff from like the funny groups as well as the music groups, and sometimes there was some overlap. But now I feel like whenever I get on the computer, I'm only getting notifications from like 3 groups. And it's not like I'm also getting like really redundant notifications that I don't care for, and I don't want to figure out how to get rid of them. So I'm thinking about giving it up for a while. And lots of other people are taking social media breaks for mental health reasons, which I think are totally valid. But I want to talk about how I bombed Facebook with the emoji album initially, because well, I figured with the emoji album, the concept was so strong that like any social media clout I had was gonna go all out, because I really wanted to get people to care about this album, because like if you're promoting something, I think there's like a part of you that's like, oh, maybe people shouldn't care about this or they don't need it in their lives. I mean, that certainly happens for me, but it's like if you're 100% sure that people should hear this, then it's like go go go. So that's what it was like for me. I was like, okay, people definitely need to hear this in their lives, and if they don't like it, they might not like complex music, or they might not be very fun, and that's okay. Just as long as it's there, they know that it's there. So I actually made a list. I went through all the Facebook groups that I was in, because like what happens, I guess, to me is that like over time I join all these silly groups, and then like things just accumulate, and then the saturation just becomes intolerable. And I don't really know how to like put a stop to that. I guess I don't want to like go through and quit groups that I'm already in, because that's already a waste of time that I never post in. Maybe I should just like never join groups unless I'm like 100% sure, but you never really are, or anything. So I made a list of all of the groups that I was in, or almost all of the groups that I was in, and read about their self-promo rules and tried to figure out which groups I could post in. So like on the day that the emoji album came out, I woke up like 3 hours early, and then in the morning I tailored each post about the emoji album to the particular group I was posting in, so that it would be like a part of the group and stuff, and so that people could also see about the album. And the reactions I got were really, really interesting, because some groups and some communities really like seeing a random thing that's cool, and some groups hate it. In fact, some groups almost, they don't take it as like a personal attack exactly, but they're like, oh, what an idiot. He's promoting his trash. And like, what a really boring thing to say, first of all. But secondly, how would you feel if I said that to you? Not very good, probably. I guess people who say that, I wonder if they don't consider what it would be like to have that said to them, because they don't have any material. Like all of the people who militantly hate self-promo, if they just don't have anything to promote at all, and so they don't like understand how that feeling would apply to them. Or maybe they are just really, really limited about their promotion, and like they're very, very sure to only post it at approved times when people have asked for it. And I don't think that people really ask for your music very often. So I think it can be a nice surprise if you promote your music at like an opportune circumstance when it comes up in the conversation, or it's just like a funny random thing. So that's like what the emoji album was for me. Just like a funny random thing that maybe could function as a meme, but like not exactly. I was really fascinated by how like in meme culture there are all these silly ideas that get passed around, and people seem to respect the incredibly silly ideas more than serious ones. So I thought like I would make this album in such a way that it could be interpreted as either serious or silly. And then I use these silly ideas for a lot of compositional techniques. And like these are totally valid compositional techniques as well. Like that's the beauty of it. Yeah, exactly. I would definitely agree. You have to be. There are certain groups where you have to be active, and certain groups where you don't have to be active. Like for example, the group that hated it the worst, I think, was like the Guess the Score group, because I posted this horrible looking chord from the 1200 EDO track and was like, "Hey, guess where this chord's from? It sounds like crap. Oh, and so there were a few people in there who were just so mad, because I guess the old dead white guys are better than the living composers inherently. So, but yeah, definitely depends on the group. The other thing that's really interesting about that is I don't know, like I think some people, I've also figured out that I think people, like, we think about self promotion differently than like other promotion, right? Because like I guess like, the act of standing. I guess I hadn't heard about this until a while ago. I guess the act of standing is like you like somebody, and so you promote their stuff because you think other people should hear it. And so, that's exactly what you should do in that situation, right? Because you've got good music, and so, you want people to hear that good music. But I don't like, I guess, in my rush to kind of like treat all of the music I hear in sort of an equal way, I kind of like treat myself in a way, in the same way that I would like stand somebody. And I do this fairly often. I post other people's music most of the day. That's most of what I do anyway. But I also post my music in the same way. So I think some people don't like that, and they're unaware that it's like it's not a brag, right? It's just, here's some good music you should listen to. It happens to be mine. It could be somebody else's, but it just happens to be mine in this particular case. But there's lots of people who are really not that way about their music. So there's not, I don't know what like signal I can send in a post to say, hey, I'm not one of those people who just wants to brag about their own music. I just think this, is worthy of inclusion in a canon of silliness. I don't even know like how that would be said or anything like that. But there's lots of people who definitely mistake it for bragging, and they're not okay with it. And there's no way to explain to them in a rational way that you have a history of posting other people's music, because that just sounds stupid and desperate. So, what are you going to do? But yeah, I thought that was a really interesting experiment, because I found out just how hostile some musicians are to self-promotion, and how unhostile other people are towards self-promotion. Like, people in random meme groups that are silly just thought it was like, whoa, this is really cool. And then when I posted it in some music groups, people were like, oh, it's not even tonal. Yeah, great point, Xeno Index. I actually, this is something Cole Dorchester and I have been talking about a little bit. The idea of like standing in like 2s or 3s, so that, it's just not self-promo, but you're basically accomplishing the same thing. I think that's a great idea. So if you want to be in a standing alliance with me, I think that would be great, especially if I like your music, because then I'll post it, and then you can post mine, and then nobody can say you're bragging about your own music, because you're not. You're posting somebody else's. So isn't that great? Yeah, being active in a community, yeah, for sure. Okay, I wonder if sometimes the posting about it. Oh, thanks, Saga. That's nice. I appreciate it. I wonder if posting about it, like trying to use a meme to create interesting music, maybe to some people it comes across as a forced meme. But I've never really asked about that or tried to research it at all. I wouldn't really try, but I just wonder, because I wouldn't want something to appear like a forced meme that I would be posting, because I know that whenever I see a forced meme, I kind of get like a little bit of an internal gag reflex. If it's like, the meme is used in a proper way, but I know it's just about promoting a product. So maybe that could be how people feel if they see the Emoji Album and they don't quite understand what's going on. They think, oh, he's promoting his product, and he's subverting memes to try and do it, so it's not real. That kind of thing. I've been seeing more memes about like advertisements that actually have a proper use of the meme, like this one with like distracted boyfriend in ADHD. Like, this is the correct use of the meme, right? But now it makes me think that like, they're desperate to be doing what the kids are doing. I don't know what it is about, like, I don't know. I don't know what it is about forced memes that sometimes rubs me the wrong way. And it might not even be that forced. Like it's just a legitimate way to to sell a product or to sell an idea, but there's something about like being introduced to a random new product that I think is irritating to a lot of people. It's like advertising, right? You just skip the ad. So maybe it's that kind of feeling. But yeah. Okay. I think I talked about most of what I wanted to ramble on about with forced memes. Thanks for being there for me all the way, everybody. Yeah, fellow kids, let's listen to microtones. Mm. I brought my 20-tone guitar to work last week, and that was so cool because we have this kid in our Saturday band, and he's like an 8-year-old, but he's already better at like improvising on guitar than a lot of adults. It's incredible. He's really really talented. And so he will like when we're playing in band, he'll his way of being a hilarious loud child is when I'm talking, he'll try and like play something, but he's not just playing random notes on his guitar. He's playing like another song that he knows. It's like he loves Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. So he picked up the microtonal guitar and tried to play it, and it was funny because like all of the frets are shrunk. So it's like this weird shrunken version of Crazy Train that he was playing. So yeah, I don't know if there's like I wish I could do that with microtonal guitars. Like I've got the 20-tone guitar. I wish I could translate it to 19, but I'm not as good at that. But yeah, the last thing I want to talk about, I guess, is wankery. Maybe this is a good word to describe it, and maybe not. There's a notion, I think, I've seen it in like the comment section of like Sevish's YouTube videos and things like that. Mainly there, although in some other places where like you have a legitimate video on microtonal music, and there's like one person with a very, very not smart anti-microtonal view that says something that an AI could reproduce immediately. So you know how much original thought is in there. But anyway, I think a lot of people are under the impression that like microtonality is just this like esoteric way to like show off your weirdness. You know what I mean? And like I could see that, but I don't know exactly what sources people are getting their information from. Like what kinds of music are they referring to when they make this accusation? Like, you know, on a Sevish video, people comment like, oh man, so many people are just self-indulgently making weird stuff. And it's not even art, but yours is. And I'm like, yeah, probably. But I wonder, like, what did that person listen to that made them think that? Did they try to listen to something academic? Because it seems like the people who would be commenting on Sevish videos wouldn't be like hunting out academic pieces. It doesn't add up to me. But maybe, I mean, you never know what people's tastes are really. So I don't know. Yeah, I might agree, Saga. Yeah, very dissonant stuff for two pianos tuned in quarter tones. Mind virus for 3 internet comments. That's a good theory too. Yeah, it might be. Yeah, some of the quarter tone pieces might do that. Although there's that Weshnegrosty quarter tone piece that's brilliant, but maybe there's some people who hear that and they can't tolerate the dissonance. I remember when I first was getting into microtonality, when I heard piano sounds that were microtonal, those were just like so much more xenharmonic to me than most other timbres. And like, you know, I just ate that up. I thought that was great. But that really, really strong feeling can be viewed negatively by so many people, which is really sad and too bad. So yeah, I always wonder about like people's tolerance for dissonance and what that even means. This is why I find like Jacob Collier's popularity to be so interesting, because theoretically he's using some pretty dissonant chords in there. There have been a few times where I've listened to some chords and not been able to hear like a certain note in the sonority that's supposed to be dissonant, like in the Moon River thing at the end. There's a few parts, but you know, maybe the note is just so quiet that I'm not hearing it. So yeah, and there's also a lot of ways I think to get people into microtonal music that might challenge their language. So what I mean by this is like, you know, if you take the average person off the street and like kind of like ask them what a chord is, they probably know that like a chord is like multiple notes together, even though they don't know like what those notes are or what they mean or how to name them. They probably know that like if you put certain notes together, they sound pretty pleasing to the ear. And then if you put other notes together, it would clash, right? So, but I gather most average people don't, since they pretend that intervals aren't important and they don't care about intervals, then if something happens with intervals that's interesting, they might have to come up with some cool language for that. Like what I mean by this is if you have a vertical sonority and like you had 4 vertical sonorities in a row and all of them had fairly unpleasant dissonance in it. Let's say it's very logical, like it comes from like an 8-note scale that makes sense, but it's all really dissonant, each chord. Probably the average person would say that it's atonal and that it doesn't sound good, even though it's not, and it could sound good. It's just dissonant, right? That's just a different feeling. So, but what if all 4 of these chords here, what if all of them are almost from 12th or like major chords or triads or sevenths that people are used to, but the horizontal distances between the chords are things that people are not familiar with at all. Now, for those of you who have been in microtonality a bit, you might be associating this with tonality flux, which would definitely be a valid way to do this. But it doesn't have to be tonality flux. It could just be like, you know, a C major chord and then like that sonority up like 250 cents and then like down 400 cents and then like up 50 cents or something like that. Now there's nothing in that vocabulary that describes the unpleasant sensation of moving from chord to chord because, you know, most people pretend that intervals don't matter. So, but they do matter because you would hear that in that chord progression. Or at least I think most people would hear that and know that something unusual was going on, even if they don't have the words to describe it. AKA 24 EDO cringe. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I think there's probably, like in my writing, I'm trying to discover what the best ways are to get microtonality heard and like recognized without turning people off. And I think that's really, really hard because you're essentially trying to do 2 things that are opposite to one another. I guess you're trying to get people to notice something that makes this music interesting intervallically, but then you're also trying to slip it under their noses so that they don't complain. So really, I don't know what should happen there. I mean, I guess you would probably look at like successful kinds of music and go from there. And like Jacob Collier is one of the few people who like doesn't really sound that microtonal a lot of the time, but people know him for his microtonality. And that's a really, really weird combination, right? I don't know. It's really interesting stuff. So I'm definitely trying to come up with situations like that where the vertical sonorities all make sense, but the horizontal stuff is wonky. And for an example of that, let me close or conclude this live stream with an explanation of how, timbre, the vocal arrangements. Let me conclude with an explanation of my holiday time party edition chord progression in 20-tone equal temperament. Because I tried to make something that just had like 4-bar phrases and stuff. And I was sort of thinking about various 12-tone progressions and how those your expectations could be subverted over a short period of time into something else. So anyway, okay, here, let me grab it. I just need to drink some Coke first. Yeah, I wonder. I've been working on trying to get a better range here. And like now I've noticed that I can sing lower in the morning because I've been practicing subharmonic singing more. So there's some mornings now where I can regularly hit, let's see. Ooh, I haven't sung today, so maybe I can hit it. Do, 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 do. Oh, looks like we only go to D today. Sometimes I can hit that note, but sometimes not, in chest voice. So chest voice goes down to there. And then anything that's like subharmonic singing is kind of like in this area. So like if I were going down to C, you know, can't sing it in chest voice, but I can subharmonic sing it. Oh, that's a different note because it's very hard for me to control the actual note itself. I'm trying to learn how to do it. I almost did it in the car yesterday. My goal is to like be able to sing like short passages down here, like in the subharmonic singing register, you know? And I almost did it like 3 times. So I've just been like, when I drive to work and back, I just practice in the car the whole time, subharmonic singing. And the other thing I want to try is whistle tones. So I've gotten down here, that one. Looks like I can't get up here today. But sometimes I get up to this B6. Nope, B5. I can't count. And then sometimes, occasionally, if I haven't talked a lot for the whole day, but if I've warmed up and I've had a lot of water, sometimes I'll get this note. And then the other day when I was trying a whistle tone, I actually nabbed a C sharp. So that means that with these other techniques that I've got, I'm going at, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 octaves if I use everything at my disposal. But yeah, and so the hope is that like with whistle tones I could get even higher, but I don't know if I'm even capable. I've gotten really close, but yeah, I want to make more use of that range and all of that stuff. I haven't really made. What have I done in subharmonic singing? Oh, I used subharmonic singing in my Deck the Halls cover. There are a few low D flats that are really hard, so I was using it for that. And then I kind of noticed like, oh, it sticks out as being subharmonic singing. So I wonder if like, I guess when I'm making tracks and I've got like certain ranges, that I have a slightly different EQ and compression for each range, so that when I'm singing low notes, you don't hear it as like throat singing or subharmonic singing, but instead you hear it as just a low note. So probably I just have to EQ out some high end there and figure out how that works. Recently, I figured out how to EQ my vocals so that they don't sound like trash, which is really helpful. I have been playing with it for a while, and I like had to confirm it with some other people, but basically, like the way my microphone records, it's basically pretty good throughout the whole register, except it sometimes gets an inordinate bit of low end with plosives, and then like it doesn't get any high end at all. And then the like mid highs are also weird. So what I do is I duck the mid highs just a bit, like maybe like 4 dB, and then I just make the high end really high. And then my vocals kind of like, they don't sound like amazing, but they like have no like lack of sparkle. Because like without that high end, I guess it always just sounds like I'm behind a barrier no matter what happens, even if I'm recording it right and everything. And of course I'm recording in a room with lots of like resonances and stuff. So there's all of that. But yeah. Okay. We were talking about vocal range. So now, last thing, 20-tone guitar. Let's pull it out and take a look. Now, if YouTube has the same sense of humor that it's had before, it'll probably just stop playing the sound. Wouldn't that be funny? But yeah, I'm really, really excited for this, for the Avatar cover. There's so many covers that are happening right now because with the Sean's Bits cover, I'm waiting for somebody to send me a part. John C.L. Jansen with his excellent daxophone. So once he sends me that, then the Sean's Bits cover will be online because all of that is done. And then once my fiance and Vito are in Avatar, then that will be done. And then Abraco de Affogato is like, it's all done except for the middle metrical section and the Portuguese, which I still have to learn how to sing well. And then I also want to redo What a Wonderful World on my channel because with what I've learned about vocal EQ and just how to organize like my voices in the DAW, once I take advantage of that better organization in writing, things are just going to sound a lot better. Because like, you know, of course it was like fun to arrange that, right? But it's like the production is not up to par. So I want to be able to do a version of What a Wonderful World that has that. I also feel like in the Deck the Halls cover, I was using more of a changing microtones horizontally approach, and that made it more appealing to lots of people. Like I showed it to everybody at work and they just loved it. I thought they were going to hate the 31-tone section. I thought they were going to think it was too dissonant. Maybe it was for a little bit, but you know, as long as you get out of it fast enough, then you're there in the next part, right? And everything else is behind you. So that's fine. But yeah, so I want to not just redo what I actually did for What a Wonderful World, but I also want to change some of the chord progressions so that they sound a little bit more agreeable and change the ranges and get better takes. Because like the other thing about that, the What a Wonderful World thing, was that like everything was the first take because I had like no time at all. So that's like all first take stuff. So I want to like, do it right and do like 10 takes for everything and make it really nice. So yeah. Okay. Drinking a Coke. Ooh, what's impressive? Maybe something. Well, trust me, it will be a lot better when it's not just all first takes. And when the chords sound a bit more agreeable. Definitely going to work on that. The other important thing about Deck the Halls that I think made it a lot better was that the microtonal chord progression was its own idea. Like in 12-tone equal temperament, and like with the stuff that Jacob Collier does, at least as far as I understand it, he's making use of various jazz-based chord progressions, and because we've already had the benefit of hearing those in 12-tone equal temperament, it means that he can kind of do whatever he wants chromatically, and that will work. But I think in a microtonal equal temperament, like, people haven't heard those as much. So the idea is that if you have a small, like, germ, a small idea that is a chromatic idea that permeates everything and recontextualizes the harmony, then people latch onto that. So that also happened in Deck the Halls. And that progression for me was taking a secondary dominant and going up a diatonic semitone to the minor chord, which causes the third of that secondary dominant to rise enharmonically. 1/19th of an octave in 19 and 31st of an octave in 31. So that was like the germ. So the idea is that if I do that with What a Wonderful World and a different chord progression and sort of recontextualize a lot of things that I wrote, it'll probably sound better. I don't have to do it with the whole thing, but with most of it. Okay, so let's finally turn this on. Oh, yeah, tremolo sound. Okay, here we go. Actually, before I start with the holiday time party edition chord progression, I want to talk about a song that I wrote called B&W BW202 BYOB, which is just a monument to my past adventures that makes no sense. But what's important is the intervals. So if you haven't listened to Ignoring Years of Hindsight yet, it's on my Bandcamp, and I rushed it a lot for First Friday, and there's a lot of really good stuff on there. I'm kind of like, I'm at this point where I don't know if any of my pre-compositional methods that I have worked on even matter. So I was like, what if I release an album where everything I do is just like the first thing I thought of, you know? I'm acting like Metallica or King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard or many other bands that are just like, let's write it. Let's put it out there. And there's even a song out there that's kind of like an homage to them. So here's a cool intervallic thing I've been working on in 20 with this tremolo effect. And actually what I did was, in the track, I'll actually show you. Yeah, I'd agree, Saga. That is a good point. There's lots of ways to do it. That's the beauty of it. It'll never get old, really, right? At least I don't think it will. Maybe it'll get old to some other people. Okay. I don't want to do this on my computer because my keyboard volume is turned way up because it's soft for no reason that I can discern. If I were to play it on my computer, probably the input would kill us all. Okay, here we go. Ignoring Years of Hindsight. So okay. Okay, so this is kind of the solo, right? Okay, so that's meant to be like a B minor funk jam, right? Except it's perverted by 20-tone equal temperament. It kind of sounds like this. So that's like the normal version. B minor 7 and then E minor 7, right? But in 20... What the? Oh no! One of the famous Dan Stearns Green Mavilla stickers just fell off! No! Well, this is so old anyway. I'm feeling the back of it, and it's like not even sticky. You got to witness crazy stuff happening live! But yeah, anyway, Oh, it's the sticker I was using. That. So the idea with this scale that I was using in the song, again, this is the one, oh, I named it wrong. It's BW202B and BBYOB. So in this song, we kind of have, like, it's supposed to be that, like, that little B minor funk jam, but the way that 20-tone equal temperament has changed it is, like, we go up to 1, 3, and, like, this is minor third, right? And this 3 going up to this 4 is secondy enough that maybe you think this is the legitimate fourth. If you're not quite hearing that, it's a bit different than. So there's the real fourth, and here's the up fourth. So the funk jam in that with the solo is really going between, like, B minor 7 and, like, its up fourth instead of its normal fourth. And the beginning solo kind of capitalizes on this difference. Now, the solo that I'm talking about here, what I do is specifically is I'd start by climbing up here. Maybe this top note sounds flat, but melodically, hopefully, it sounds like an arpeggiated minor chord with just a bit of difference. Right? No. So if that sounds like a minor chord, this is what I'm thinking of xenharmonically with the opening intervals. The idea is that if I approach the fifth by arpeggiating 1, 3, 5, but the 5 is flat, the 4 is sharp. So I have stretched both the 4 and the 5 of, like, what would normally be a minor scale. I've stretched them different ways, but I haven't compared them directly. So then when I compare them directly, hopefully xenharmonic chaos ensues. Because the idea is that, like, if I play this, okay, that's a 5, that's fine. I didn't receive any intervallic evidence that was an unusual interval other than it's just flat or sharp of what we would expect it. That's fine. And now, how about this one? That's fine too, right? It sounds flat or sharp of where we would expect it, but it's climbing up correctly. Or whoop. So if I'm just comparing 4 and 5 directly to 1, then they're not being compared against each other. But then later in the solo, I go. And now you hear that these are like a half step away. It's so weird. So that's the idea. Is like, at least that's the, I think that's the central idea of, like, not the central idea, but one of the most important ideas of xenharmonic music is that you create a sense of structural drift by getting people used to a line or chord progression, and then you take another one that's similar, but then changes it in some way. So I had something that fits in, and something else. And then I took these endpoints, and I made them different. The best part is, if we go up a 240-cent step from the up fourth, we get another kind of fifth that's like a completely 120 cents up from the one that I approached by going flat. But now this, I think, sounds so sharp after hearing that flatter fifth. I think it sounds like a sixth. Here's the real fifth, which we don't touch. It's only a down fifth. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah. So for the sound effect for the solo, what I did was I played the solo with the tremolo, and then I sped it up a little bit and took it up an octave. So the tremolo sounds really fast, and the timbre of the guitar is great. I think it's really cool. I think it has a really, really nice effect on the track as a whole. So yeah. And then what happened was, after sort of discovering this, I decided to make a scale out of it. So here's the main idea. like in 5-tet, if you wanted to play a 5-tet scale on this 20-tone guitar, here's what you could do. No, not that. You could, like if you started here, you could do, right? And the only thing I'm doing is I'm just playing 4 frets up. That's really easy, right? So that's kind of like what a pentatonic brain can latch onto. That's already Zen. Now, here's the idea that happens with this. What if you go, whenever you go up a string, you scoot up 1 20-tone step? Well, you'd get this weird, cool scale where it's kind of a little bit Mavlo-like. Because see, in 12-tone equal temperament, those adjacent steps between strings count as the same thing. So now you have this situation where the scale is deforming nicely, and you might not have expected it. So that's the solo in the beginning of the song. In the beginning of the song, I'm playing the normal different scale that I have. And then playing this. And then it sounds different. So yeah, comparing different structures that way. So I was just really, really excited about that scale. I later extrapolated that scale to include 9 notes so that if I wanted to go to the minor third, I could approach it like this. 0, 240, 300, 240, 0. So if I have those sizes there, that 240, that lends legitimacy to this sounding like a minor third, right? And now this totally works as a fourth, but before made it too big for that to pass, right? So that's why I sort of put this interval in here as a minor third. So I'm sometimes using the 240 step to create a 5-tet structure, and sometimes using it to get to 300 so that it's a legit minor third, so that I can go up to the up fourth. Kind of like 4L4 is diminished. You know, it's weird. Let me see if I can find the scale. I think I can actually find it. I wrote it on a piece of paper. Where did it go? Ah, damn it. I don't see it anywhere. I think I can remember it though. It's I wonder if you could express it as a mon mas of 4L4 is diminished, because there's actually another song on Ignoring Years of Hindsight called Monkey, and Monkey is about one of my fiance's old cats, and there's a little riff in it that plays, and the riff uses melodic steps that are from 5L5S and then grows them to 4L4S steps. But it doesn't sound as xenharmonic as I thought. But that would be a really interesting one to check out if you're interested in the diminished scale. I think here, let's see. Aha, it's a real shame that sticker's gone because I'm so used to it being there for that first note there. But yeah, so here's what the scale is. If I were to take all the steps that I was legitimately using in this weird scale that's kind of like Mavila and kind of like some other stuff, it's like 4 different scales. So it's really neat. It's a three kinds of step sort of scale. So it would be like, here's the first note, and then 2, 2, 1, 4, 2, 2, 1, 4, 2. So the idea is that the pattern here is, well, you'd mostly use this here, like a 1, 4, 1, but there's also this extra note in between you can have, which is very Mavila sounding. So there's that. I guess you could say, like, I think the 7-note scale would be kind of like this. Like, in intervals. 4, 1, 4, 1. Nope. Start over. 4, 1, 4, 4, 1, 4, 1. So there's lots of 4s and 1s in it. Wait, that couldn't be an MOS, could it? It's not. Or at least it shouldn't be. I don't think it's, maybe. Or maybe I can't count. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's right. And that is 4. So yeah, if I go up to the next string and up 4th away instead of a standard 5-tet 4th, then it's up 4 instead of up 3 from the last note. So yeah, so I'm really happy with this scale. In pitch classes, here's like, I guess the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It kind of sounds like minor. Wow. Except the difference is that these notes those notes should have a bigger distance than harmonic minor. So I guess it's kind of like harmonic minor. But if you take away those ancillary notes, it can sound like, my hope is that it would sound like a pentatonic scale where by the end it surprises you that it's so sharp. Like I was hoping that the listener would kind of want to hear like this. But then like this note up here gets turned into this note because it's too sharp now. So yeah, that's enough about that scale. Okay, great. Unless we've got any more questions about it. Actually, here, let me say the pitch classes really quick. So I guess this would be 0, 4, 5, 9, 13, 14, 18, 20. And that's without these little middle notes. So sometimes I also put in this middle note here. Instead of just going do-do-do, 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 there's also that middle note there sometimes. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes a 9-note scale, sometimes a 7-note scale. Maybe I'll talk about it more in the Discord if anybody cares. Because it's a really great scale. I'd love to. I'm really glad that I used it for that song. Okay. Turning the tremolo effect off and going to the acoustic effect here. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay. Here we go. So then for Holiday Time Party Edition, what I did was I changed the guitar so that instead of having like a low E, it had like a low D. That seems about right. So now I'll retune. Rough tuning for the live stream. Too far. Been a weird ass holiday in 2020. Maybe this makes you feel sad. Okay, there we go. We got it. So here's the idea. In Holiday Time Party Edition, the tonic triad is neutral. And I love neutral triads. I think they're absolutely delightful. Even after years in microtonality, it's still like in parts a sense of either majorness or minorness, depending on how I hear it. Like, it's not as bad as it used to be. Like, when I was in college and I was playing in 7-tet, I remember that, like, when I played it, like, starting on C, my brain was trying to turn, like, the chords in the diatonic scale that are normally minor into minor, like, in my head, even though they were all the same chord quality. So neutral chords are really, really baffling. They're an excellent tool. So what I wanted to do in Holiday Time Party Edition was I wanted to try and make the neutral triads sound both major and minor. So there is a 4-chord loop, but then the ending chord is different the second time than the first time. And it's much easier to make the neutral triad sound major-ish in 20 than minor-ish, because the third is like physically higher. There's 360 cents, right? 420, 360, 300. And Noah Jordan's done this on his channel with the exact same guitar position. So the 3/3 in 20 tone are minor, neutral, and super major if you want. So this neutral triad is just great. It has a really nice like coldness and sort of biting character. Like I like it in this register. I think it's perfect for like D half flat or whatever the last string is. So it's been a weird ass holiday 2020. And then this chord here, this is kind of like a dominant chord. Yeah? And I think that's super major. There's neutral, minor, yeah. So this is like a major chord. And then the 7th is flat enough that you might be able to hear it as 60. Like here's another kind of 7th, right? It could be this kind of dominant 7th, but it's this one. Yeah? So that's kind of the first thing we have. We have like a neutral chord here. Weird ass holiday in 2020, and maybe this will make you feel sad, right? And then this note resolves up 1, and then this major chord here is like super major chord is like this. So that kind of sounds a little bit like subtonic, related maybe. Oh gosh, I'm trying to figure out what the relation is. Oh wow. Oh wow, that's oh, that's fantastic. That's 300 cents away. So here we go. Again, we've got this neutral chord here, and then this dominant 7th chord with the lower option for 7th. It's like super major. Here's that root note. And the root note is one above the neutral 3rd. Right? And then that root stays the same. Now there's this major chord that's 300 cents below. And then when we contract all that in, we've also got, wait. No. Now I've forgotten which one it is. Hold on. Oh, it should be this chord here. That sounds a bit sharp, I think. No, that's right. Okay. So then it's this chord here. Now, notice that this chord shape is a lot like that second chord we had, but instead of having like that lower 7th here, it's got the higher one. So this is like the way the chords cycle around and contract with tonality flux. That last chord is like a 4 chord that's dominant. So you could almost think about it like, ew, D flat sounds weird now. You could almost think about it like this kind of motion, like in the blues. That dominant 7th resolves up to that major 3rd in that kind of chord progression. That is, if you have a subdominant chord that's a dominant 7th, the 7th of that resolves up to the major 3rd of the tonic triad. And that imparts on it a sense of majorness from the 12th tone equal tempered ear. So when we come around this first cycle and get back, then the chord sounds major, right? So we might not be sure. Probably major. And then right? Yeah, you hear that? Hey, hi Sheldon. It's nice to see you. Nice to have lots of people here cycling in and out. I was just talking about the chord progression in a Holiday Time Party Edition. and how when we get around the first four set of chords, that fourth chord gives the tonic chord a sense of majorness when it comes back. So here's a neutral triad. Dominant chord with a low seventh. Going here by 1/20th of an octave. And then contracting to here. And then since that note from the dominant seventh goes up to the major third of the next chord, that's something that in 12th and equal temperament signals majorness. Right? So now we've come back to this chord and it sounds major. Now it was a lot harder to make it sound minor. So in the next four bars, what happens is the tonic chord and the next two chords, like the first, second, and the third chord in a row, those are all the same. And then the last chord is a peculiar kind of five chord that I hoped would make the chord have a minor edge. In fact, I hope it's kind of like a xenharmonic snap, because this neutral chord is more comfortably assigned as major, I think. Like, it doesn't really have a sense of majorness or minorness, but like if you had to pick just like on its own, you'd probably say it was like majorish, right? Ooh, let's try a minorish neutral chord with bending. Oh no, those sound the same. Okay, there. That's hard to do with one finger. But yeah, okay. So we just did that. So now. And then this chord is a lot harder to get out of the blue. So it's this kind of dominant chord. So there's a lot of different kinds of dominant chords, but I specifically, because I wanted to make the chord sound minorish, I specifically tested all of the sonorities that could pass as a dominant seventh on this scale degree to make sure that the one I had was giving the chord the most of a minor edge when I came back. And I settled on this one. So this is super major third, fifth, do-do-do. So that's pretty normal so far. Do-do-do. Nope. Oh, here it is. Do-do-do. And this seventh here, it's one of two minor sevenths that I could pick. Or maybe it's a neutral seventh. It's a neutral seventh. Here's a normal one. Right? So the idea is if I've got this, I think this was the kicker here. The kicker is that, well, of course, the super major third is just going to resolve up. That's going to happen whether it's major or minor. And I think what happened with the neutral one was the neutral one didn't have enough of a pull as a five chord to get the effect that we were tonally resolving. I mean, like, it sounds good and interesting, but it doesn't sound like this is a five going to the one and the one is minor. And that's kind of the sound I wanted to pervert. So we had to have the super major third here. That was a requirement. And then we had this high seventh. And then the rest of the notes fill in themselves because this open string just matches the bottom one here. So this is just the dominant note, or the root note of this chord. And then this is just the fifth. So root third, neutral seventh, root fifth. So there it all is. And the reason that this high neutral seventh from the chord works is because when it resolves down to the third of the next chord, now it's 180 cents away. So since that entire distance has to be traversed, hopefully, that when you hear that resolution, it imparts a sense of minorness on the chord. So here, let's compare. I'll show you. It's been a weird-ass holiday in 2020. Boy, it sucks and everything's bad. 2020 is bad and I don't know the words to my own song, but that's okay, cause this note goes up to here, so now it sounds major, and then there's something else and it's dominant, and viral jokes you heard about were never funny, and then dun, dun. Right? Now does that sound minor? Hopefully it sounds more minor now, right? Because now that we've got this happening, but from here, from this vantage point, sounds major. So that was what I was trying to do in Holiday Time Party Edition. The hope is that, like, it sounds like a pretty normal, like, 4-chord loop, right? Or an 8-chord loop, I guess, since the last 2 chords are different in each of those 4-chord loops. But then each of those makes the tonic triad sound different. Now, another thing I could have done, interestingly, was, like, with the subdominant going back to the tonic, I could have made the subdominant go to minor and the dominant go to major. But the reason I decided not to do that was because the connection between a dominant to tonic chord is stronger. And like I needed all the firepower I could get to make this chord sound minor, since it tends towards sounding majorish with the 360 cent third instead of like right in the middle or a bit lower. So that was why I needed the dominant 7th chord for the minor, but the subdominant for the major. So yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I'll play it one more time, and then I think I'll sign off for everybody. I'm so glad you showed up. I am going to be using this on one more song in Ignoring Years of Hindsight called Positionlessnesses. And Vito Cicarella and I are both going to play on it. So the plan is, since the keyboard is in 16-tet, and he's got a 16-tet guitar, we'll be playing this sick riff together, and then domain shift in between, so that we're really in 32. And then I'll play on this and do a similar thing with the keyboard changed to 20 after all my 16 business is done, and provide a similar shift. So the piece will be polysystemically in 32 and 40. But I don't know if they'll be juxtaposed with each other directly, or if there will be more of a modulation kind of thing. I think it depends on how much work I want to put into it, because I've got a lot of other things on the table. But yeah, okay, here we go. It's been a weird-ass holiday in 2020, and maybe it makes you feel sad. Viral jokes you heard about were never funny. It doesn't have to be that bad. Terrible. It's a critical time in many ways, with bad traditions under attack. Oh, it's easy to pretend that the holidays are sacred, so how to get our free time back? Well, most holidays have questionable origins, and we do better when canceling and mad abominations. Their perks could leave forever. You must think to replace the spot with a similar event that's not celebrating genocide or denigrating peoples, or CEOs will try to make the holidays illegal. Minor ending. But yeah. Okay. Great. I had a good time on this live stream. Hopefully it was educational and fun, and talking about the theory was interesting. I'd love to hear about anything that you guys want me to talk about too, because I'd love to just contribute to the microtonal sphere of whatever is a good idea. Oh, actually, one more thing I can do before I go is explain these dots. So the green dots here, there were 7 of them on the guitar initially for Mavila 7 tuning, and then my fiance got me more green stickers. Oh yes, the Adam Neely response video. I kind of abandoned that, and I really want to come back to it. Yeah, not strictly Zen related, but yeah, thanks for reminding me about that, because I've tabled so many projects for like whatever happens. There's just like a million things to do. Like if only more people had done microtonal stuff, then there wouldn't be so much to do. But yeah, okay, so the green stickers, Mavila 7, my fiance very nicely got me some more stickers so that I could make it Mavila 9. But then I found that when I did that, it wasn't as visually easy to like chunk things. So I think I made the wrong decision by putting some stickers on there. I might have to redo this. But some of these old stickers do just come from when Dan Stearns had this guitar, he had the green stickers on. And then the pink stickers, what these come from are the scale that's in 13 tone equal temperament as well, where you can either think of it in 2 ways. You can think of it as creating you can think of it in multiple ways related to diatonic steps. But the 2 ways that I like to think of it is I like to think of it as a whole tone scale that has drifted so flat that now there's enough distance between the sixth note and the octave that it counts as a leading tone, like this. So that's pretty cool. Although that's not on the pink dots. And then the other way I like to think of it is I like to think of it as a major scale where all of the steps have also shrunk so much that when you go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti becomes so flat that it sounds like te. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, do. Isn't that nuts? I played that at work and people freaked out. It was great. So the pink dots are for a particular version of that scale. And for some of it, I was playing like chords like I think like this. Nope, that's not right. Oh, wait, but it might be in the wrong tuning. I don't know. But yeah, I was using it to play chords in a lot of the songs on Ignoring Years of Hindsight. So you'll hear the scale with the pink dots on Big Smokey, as well as So-So, or the song that just has a $sign, a zero, a $sign, and a zero. It's like the 2020 gesture, as well as various other things all combined into one. So I'm mostly playing chords from that scale in that song, and it's pretty neat. And same is true with Big Smokey. But Big Smokey has more like a real riff. And So-So is like, it's got some major second stuff going on that's kind of fun. So, okay. Bye, everybody. It's been good.